What happens when the calmest voice in morning television meets one of the most divisive figures in popular culture? That's how the encounter between Lara Spencer and Meghan Markle on Good Morning America can best be described. What began as a warm, carefully staged morning show segment gradually unraveled into an on-air tug of wills, an exchange where every pause, every measured smile seemed to carry more weight than the words themselves. The studio was its usual picture of calm. Golden light washed over the set, the cameras floated across the floor like dancers, and the audience clapped politely as the familiar theme music faded. Lara Spencer, poised in a sharp yellow suit, radiated the kind of composed charm that made millions of viewers feel their day was off to a safe start. Then the screen graphic flashed. Meghan Markle, Purpose, Privacy, and Power. "Good morning, everyone," Lara began with her signature bright but soothing tone. "Our guest today is a philanthropist, a producer, and a best-selling author. Please welcome Meghan Markle." Meghan entered with the grace of someone who knew the world was watching. Dressed in a cream blouse and navy skirt, a flash of diamonds at her wrist, she lowered herself into the velvet chair opposite Lara. Her greeting was polite, her smile professional, but her eyes already seemed to scan the room for angles. Lara opened with empathy, pointing to Meghan's recent mental health advocacy work. "For viewers who may be struggling, what practical tools have helped you most?" she asked. Meghan's response was calm but firm. "I think people expect quick tips, like this is a lifestyle segment. But healing isn't about tricks. It's about voice, autonomy, boundaries." She lingered on that last word as if setting a line in the sand. "When you understand those, you don't need tools, you need alignment." The studio air shifted. Lara tried to soften the moment by suggesting community or therapy as examples. Meghan's reply was pointed. "It might mean that. Or it might mean refusing to answer reductive questions." The smile she gave after landed with a sting, sweet but unmistakably sharp. Unfazed, Lara steered toward Meghan's joint projects with Prince Harry: scholarships, veteran programs, digital well-being. "Which initiative has surprised you most?" she asked. "All of them," Meghan said after a pause, as though weighing which deserved her acknowledgement. But impact isn't measured in applause or headlines. It's in the energy that shifts when systems evolve. Still pressing, Lara asked if there was one personal story Meghan carried with her. Meghan's eyes lowered. "There are many, but I don't share them on cue. Privacy, remember?" The word landed like a pebble in still water, rippling through the room. A cameraman gripped his focus ring a little tighter. Lara, with the polish of a veteran broadcaster, pivoted. She brought up Meghan's transition from acting to producing. Meghan's response was quick. "That assumes acting didn't require leadership. It did. I've always captained my space. The difference now is that people notice." Even as the tension built, Lara kept the interview flowing. She turned to Meghan's reflections on authorship and motherhood. "What does a typical morning look like in your household?" Meghan laughed, though the sound carried a cool edge. "We don't do typical. I don't believe mothers need celebrities pretending we all flip pancakes before yoga. I have staff, I have structure, I have help because I build big things. And I'm comfortable saying that." Behind the cameras, a producer muttered, "Wow," and scribbled furiously on a notepad. Lara didn't flinch. With her signature grace, she simply replied, "Sometimes honesty is a relief." "There's freedom in acknowledging the people who support you," Lara suggested. "Exactly," Meghan answered smoothly, which is why it feels strange when interviewers demand relatability like it's proof of purchase. The remark drifted through the studio air, pleasant at first, but with an aftertaste that lingered. Lara glanced at her cue cards, though the gesture was more show than necessity. She moved the conversation forward. "Let's talk about your new series. You've mentioned featuring women in high-pressure roles: athletes, scientists, entrepreneurs. What's the question you're most excited to ask them?" For the first time that morning, Meghan lit up. "I always want to know what they refused, the job they turned down, the relationship they walked away from, the smallness they rejected. Saying no, that's a superpower." She let the line shimmer in the silence, clearly aware of its weight, but Lara's response was careful. Sometimes saying no is also a privilege. Do you worry that message lands differently for people without the safety net to refuse opportunities? Meghan folded her hands neatly, her diamond ring catching the light like a camera flash. Often, what limits people is mindset. They don't realize how much of their shine is imagined. On screen, the studio looked flawless. Warm lighting, two composed women in conversation. Off screen, though, the tension felt like a wire vibrating between them. Imagination is powerful, Lara offered, her tone steady. Absolutely, Meghan agreed, but I think viewers may also be hoping for empathy for realities that aren't imagined. Rent, childcare, healthcare. Meghan's smile tightened. I'm aware of the world, she added with a sweetness that edged toward challenge. Are you? A soft murmur rippled through the audience risers. Lara took the smallest of breaths, her composure unbroken. Let's reframe, she said. When your documentary was released, some found it inspiring. Others felt provoked. If you could revisit one moment, not to satisfy critics, but to clarify your own intention, what would it be? Meghan tilted her head, regal in posture. I don't rewrite, I iterate. And I won't amplify criticism from those who haven't built anything themselves. Her tone wasn't sharp. It was calm but resolute, like someone claiming higher ground. Still, Lara replied gently, building anything requires feedback. I ask because your platform is enormous, and with that comes responsibility. Meghan's eyes glimmered. I'm well acquainted with responsibility. That's why I choose carefully where I sit. Nervous laughter scattered around the studio. For the first time, Lara's perfect smile flickered, but she recovered instantly. I'm glad you chose to sit here, she said warmly. Our viewers want to hear about the work. With practiced ease, she shifted. So tell us, what does accountability look like? For the institutions you've criticized, and for you personally? Meghan responded quickly. Accountability looks like programs funded, lives improved, discourse elevated. When those who profit from harm feel uncomfortable, that's also a metric. And for you personally? Lara pressed. Meghan's gaze stayed firm. I've never been more aligned. The control room went silent. The stage manager hovered, ready to cut to commercial if needed. The moment stretched, heavy but controlled, like a gray wave waiting offshore. Finally, Lara lifted the energy with a sparkle in her voice. We'll take a short break. When we return, Meghan talks about creative risk, her next project, and the legacy she hopes to leave behind. Stay with us. The audience applauded on cue. Bright theme music washed over the room. From the wide shot, everything looked perfect. Manhattan mornings and golden studio light. But close up, there was something else. Hairline cracks in the porcelain shine. Not an argument, not yet, but the kind of prelude that tells viewers instinctively, the next question might tip the table. As the applause died, Lara leaned in with her signature soft smile. She'd faced tough exchanges before, with CEOs, athletes, even politicians, but rarely had a guest wrapped condescension and charm as smoothly as Meghan Markle. Welcome back, Lara Spencer announced with her trademark steadiness, her composure as polished as ever. She turned toward the camera with practiced warmth. We're continuing our conversation with Meghan Markle about her projects and her philosophy of purpose in today's world. Meghan leaned into her chair, tucking a loose strand of hair behind her ear. Her smile was polite but distant, her posture less like a guest enjoying a morning chat and more like someone seated at a formal hearing. Lara began gently. You've often spoken about empowering women to take on leadership roles. What message would you share with young women who feel invisible in their careers or communities? Meghan's answer, though smooth, carried a certain bite. The first thing I tell them is not to wait for approval, whether from a morning show or any other institution. If you understand your own value, you don't need outside validation to matter. The audience responded with a thin wave of applause, but the room carried a note of unease. Remaining calm, Lara pressed. That's inspiring, but many women don't have the same resources or networks. What practical advice would help them take their first steps? Meghan tilted her head, her tone gentler but tinged with condescension. Practicality can become a convenient excuse for staying small. My view is simple. Stop overthinking the starting line. Just begin. Courage brings the details. Her words had the rhythm of a sermon, eloquent but with an undertone of superiority. Lara kept her voice measured. Courage is vital, I agree. But even the bravest among us still need support systems. Mentorship, financial backing, opportunities. Meghan's smile sharpened. Opportunities come to those who are ready to seize them. I prepared myself, and I claimed my space. Not everyone chooses to do that. The audience stirred uneasily again, whispers rippling through the seats. Lara shifted to safer ground. Let's talk about your creative work. Your newest project has been described as groundbreaking. What artistic risks are you proudest of taking? Meghan gave a soft laugh through her nose. Risks? I don't see them as risks. At my level, innovation is expected. People call it risk only because they can't picture moving forward without a net. For me, it's ordinary. It's Tuesday. A silence lingered until the applause sign lit up. The clapping that followed was obedient but faint, more polite than enthusiastic. Lara's jaw tightened slightly, though her smile remained. That's impressive, she said gently. Still, risk resonates with people because it reveals vulnerability. Do you think showing more vulnerability could actually strengthen your message? Meghan's brow rose almost imperceptibly. I've exposed enough of my vulnerability for one lifetime. Frankly, the world doesn't need another woman breaking down on cue to prove her humanity. We're past that. The remark struck sharply. Some in the crowd gasped while others sat stiff in silence. Lara's poise didn't falter, but the warmth had drained from her eyes. She replied softly, For many, vulnerability is what creates real connection. Meghan leaned forward, her tone cool and certain. Connection isn't built on weakness, it's built on strength. If viewers want relatability, they can find it in their neighbor. I didn't come here to be relatable. The words hit the room like glass shattering. The atmosphere fractured, tension humming through the air. Lara tilted her head slightly, still calm, though the weight of the exchange was visible in her careful expression. Some might argue, she countered, that relatability and strength aren't opposites. That sometimes the most powerful act is showing others they're not alone. Meghan's smile returned, thin and razor-sharp. Sometimes the greatest strength is reminding people they don't actually need you, Meghan remarked, her words slicing through the studio like glass. The audience froze. A low ripple of whispers betrayed the unease settling in the room. Lara, unshaken, shuffled her cue cards with quiet precision. Let's turn to family life, she suggested, her voice returning to a softer, more inviting tone. Balancing a demanding career with raising children is something many women struggle with. How do you manage it? Meghan gave a small, dismissive laugh. Balance is a fantasy. Let's stop pretending it exists. My children understand that I'm building something historic, and one day they'll appreciate that. I don't need to perform domestic normalcy to make other people feel comfortable. The hush that followed was sharp. Lara's smile stayed gentle, but her eyes cooled. Many mothers at home may feel conflicted hearing that, she replied carefully. Not everyone has the option of choosing between ordinary life and ambition. Meghan's shoulders lifted in a graceful shrug. Then maybe ambition isn't meant for everyone. The audience gasped audibly, the disapproval finally breaking into the open. Lara inhaled, her calm voice firming slightly. Ambition wears many faces. For some women, raising children with love and dedication is ambition. It just expresses itself differently. Meghan waved a manicured hand as though brushing away the thought. Yes, that's a comforting story for people to tell themselves. But it's not mine. Some of us are meant for more. The words hung in the air like smoke after a match. The audience stayed silent, visibly unsettled. Lara's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly, though her voice remained steady. Destiny takes many shapes, she said quietly. Our viewers will decide which vision speaks to them. The band played the commercial cue, but the mood had shifted entirely. The elegance of the conversation was gone, replaced by brittleness, every word like shards of glass on the table. Lara Spencer kept her trademark composure, but the spark in her eyes suggested her patience was nearing its end. Meghan Markle, however, leaned back in her chair, appearing serene, even triumphant, as if the studio itself now revolved around her. When cameras rolled again, applause followed on cue, though it lacked its earlier energy. Lara smiled with professional polish, folding her hands neatly. Welcome back to Good Morning America. We continue with Meghan Markle to discuss her projects, advocacy, and thoughts on leadership. Meghan's lips curved faintly, a quiet confidence in her tone. Yes, though I sometimes wonder if people are ready for leadership in its truest sense. It means listening to someone who refuses to dilute herself for approval. The line fell like a gauntlet. The audience stirred uneasily. Lara's smile held, though her shoulders stiffened just slightly. That's certainly one view, she replied gently, but leadership can also mean meeting people where they are, making them feel included. Meghan's gaze sharpened. Inclusion isn't lowering yourself to the lowest common denominator. It's about pulling people upward to your level. The silence was heavy. Lara kept smiling, but her throat tightened as she glanced toward the audience before refocusing on her guest. She pivoted with care. Let's discuss your documentary from last year. It received both praise and criticism. Some viewers felt it focused more on image than on substance. How do you respond? Meghan's smile thinned. Irritation slipped into her otherwise even tone. I'd remind people that creating a global documentary while raising 2 children is substantial enough. If critics don't see that, maybe it's because they've never accomplished anything comparable. The crowd reacted instantly. Gasps, a few murmurs. Lara's posture remained elegant, though the faint crease between her brows betrayed strain. Many would say raising children while working on any scale is already a tremendous achievement, she countered gently. Meghan's answer was smooth, but the condescension was unmistakable. Of course, but there's a difference between managing daily errands and shaping global conversations. I function on an entirely different plane, Meghan declared. The audience shifted uneasily, a low chorus of whispers moving across the studio like a restless tide. Lara leaned slightly closer, her tone still velvet but now edged with steel. Some might argue that comments like that risk pushing people away, people who might otherwise look to your journey for inspiration. Is that a concern for you? Meghan's expression didn't waver. Her smile was cold, her voice clipped. No, if someone feels excluded by ambition, then perhaps they were never meant to be inspired in the first place. The remark landed in silence. Not a single clap followed. The cameras caught Lara's slow inhale, her lashes lowering for the briefest second before she steadied herself again. She tried a different path. You've positioned yourself as an advocate for women juggling work, motherhood, and personal identity. What is your message to those women watching today? Meghan responded instantly. Stop labeling yourselves as ordinary. Stop dressing up struggle as though it's noble. Demand more. Expect more. Refuse to settle for mediocrity. The word mediocrity rang out like a slap across the room. Audience members stirred, whispers rising, faces uneasy. Lara's fingers tightened around her cards. Struggle itself can be noble, she replied carefully. Many watching right now may feel invalidated by that word. Isn't there room to celebrate resilience as well as ambition? Meghan lifted a hand in a casual, dismissive flick. Resilience is survival dressed in nicer packaging. I don't applaud people simply for enduring. My work is about showing them how to transcend. The crowd's reaction was immediate. Audible gasps, scattered murmurs, even a shake of the head from a woman in the front row. Lara forced a polite smile, though the tension in her jaw betrayed strain. Transformation takes many shapes, she said softly. It can be raising children, teaching a classroom, working 2 jobs, or simply showing up with love for your family. Meghan's reply cut back quickly. And sometimes that's just settling. The audience erupted. Gasps, some soft boos, a tide of discomfort breaking into the open. For the first time, Lara's composure cracked slightly. She blinked slowly, her gaze narrowing. The viewers at home are working incredibly hard under circumstances very different from yours. They don't have staff. They don't have global platforms. Yet they still persevere. Meghan crossed her legs smoothly, the flash of her diamond ring catching the studio light. And maybe that's why they watch, to hear from someone who has already surpassed those limitations. The arrogance in the statement was unmistakable. The audience noise swelled again, louder, uneasy. Lara's patience frayed at the edges. Her tone stayed calm but now carried iron beneath it. Or maybe, she said firmly, they're tuning in for empathy, not condescension. Maybe they want connection more than they want instructions. Meghan's smile remained fixed. Empathy has its uses, but leadership is about authority, and authority isn't always comfortable. It's about truth. This time, the response from the audience was fractured. Hesitant applause from a few, stony silence from the rest. Lara's hands clenched together, her knuckles pale, her composure hanging by a thread. Truth, she said quietly, can build or destroy, depending on how you choose to deliver it. Meghan leaned forward, eyes glittering. Then perhaps people need to stop being so fragile? The air snapped. Gasps echoed across the studio in unison. Lara's eyes widened, the first visible crack in her calm before narrowing with quiet fury. Fragile? She repeated, her voice low and sharp. You've just called everyday people fragile for wanting kindness. Meghan didn't blink. Yes, if they want kindness, they should find it at home. Out in the world, what matters is strength. The words dropped like stones into glass. The audience buzzed with shock, half in disbelief, half in indignation. Lara's lips curved into a thin, unfamiliar smile, but her eyes had hardened. She was no longer simply holding composure. She was holding the line. For the first time that morning, Lara Spencer no longer looked like the unflappable anchor America trusted. The silence in the studio was thick, oppressive, as if every audience member was holding their breath. Meghan Markle sat rigid, chin raised, eyes glinting with certainty, while across the desk Lara's hands were laced so tightly together her knuckles were stark white. Fragile, Lara repeated, her voice low but sharp as a blade. That's what you think ordinary people are? Fragile because they ask for compassion? Meghan's lips curled into a faint, knowing smile. Yes. Strength is what the world rewards, Lara. That's why I'm in this chair, and they're in that audience. She gestured dismissively toward the crowd. The reaction was instant, shocked gasps, restless murmurs, and even a few boos. The spell of polite morning television had shattered. Lara leaned closer, her tone firmer now. I've interviewed heads of state, survivors of unimaginable hardship, parents working 3 jobs. Not one of them has ever dismissed empathy as weakness. Meghan flicked her hand as if swatting away an insect. Maybe they needed it more than I do. I've moved beyond that. That sentence was the final crack in Lara's composure. Her inhale was sharp, her eyes narrowing, her voice suddenly edged with steel. Moved beyond it? Meghan, let's get something straight. You don't earn respect because of a title you married into. Titles don't build character. Work does. Respect does. And your answers today have shown neither. The audience erupted, clapping and cheering, their pent-up frustration pouring out. Meghan's practiced calm faltered. Her eyes darted nervously, her smile slipping. You don't understand, she started weakly. No, Lara cut in, her voice raised for the first time. I understand all too well. You've sat here like a spoiled child, dismissing every question, sneering at the lives of ordinary people, and treating this platform like a mirror for your own voice. Meghan flushed crimson, shifting uncomfortably. That isn't fair. It's absolutely fair, Lara shot back, her patience gone. This program isn't about massaging egos, it's about connecting with people. And what you've done here is insult them. Our audience, our viewers, and every woman who's ever worked hard without leaning on a husband's crown to stay relevant. The crowd gasped, then thundered with applause, louder this time, their approval unmistakable. Meghan's eyes filled, tears slipping past her mascara. Her voice trembled. How dare you? I've sacrificed. Sacrifice? Lara's voice cut through the noise. Sacrifice is a mother skipping dinner so her kids can eat. Sacrifice is a nurse working back-to-back shifts. Sacrifice is a teacher spending her own money to keep her classroom afloat. Sacrifice is not leaving a palace for Netflix contracts and complaining about privacy. Don't you dare call that sacrifice. By now, the audience was on its feet, clapping, cheering, shouting. Meghan broke down, tears streaking across her face as she fumbled with her microphone. "I don't have to sit here and be attacked," she choked, rising abruptly. "No," Lara said coolly, her voice sharp but steady. "You don't, because this interview is finished. You may leave." The words dropped like a verdict. Security stepped quietly toward the stage, though Meghan was already gathering her papers, dabbing at her face as she stormed off. Her heels struck the floor in sharp staccato, echoing through the hush set. The cameras captured every detail. Meghan's retreat, the stunned audience, and Lara Spencer seated tall, unflinching, her eyes fierce. As the studio doors closed behind Meghan, Lara turned back to the camera. Her voice was calm, resolute. "Here on Good Morning America, we stand for respect. Respect for our viewers, respect for our audience, and respect for every story we share. And when that respect is broken, our loyalty is to the people who trust us each morning, not to privilege or entitlement. We'll be right back." The audience erupted, rising to its feet in a storm of applause as the band carried the show into commercial. The studio buzzed with electricity, the kind that lingers after a confrontation no one expected. What started as a polished conversation wrapped in courtesy had unraveled into a full-scale clash. Meghan Markle exiting in tears, Lara Spencer holding her ground, and daytime television left with a moment that will be remembered for years. Now the question is yours. Was Lara justified in drawing the line, or did the exchange spiral too far? Share your thoughts in the comments. Was this strength, overstep, or something in between? And if you want more of these dramatic, can't-miss showdowns, make sure you subscribe, tap the like button, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next story.